Welcome to Retro Vehicles and Machinery. Oh dear, you might ask what's gone wrong, but nothing. I've just been waiting on my gearbox parts to turn up, and they have now. Second and third, it used to jump out of gear, and the selector shaft and the detent ball and spring was, well, the shaft was worn out, and I've just stripped her down. Unfortunately not got video of it, but I've just lifted the engine up with this crane set up here, enough to drop the drop box off the front of the gearbox here and access it to pull the selector shaft out. So it's been fun and games this morning. So here we have the selector fork, which doesn't look in too bad condition. It can go back in as they're like 200 odd quid. But here's the selector shaft, and that's, you could see that through the lid of the gearbox how bad that was. So when the selector shaft was sitting on that on a skew, it was just popping out. So there's the detent spring that came out, and it's just absolutely toast. It's got no springiness left whatsoever in it. It's just had it. The little ball bearing's probably alright, but in this packet here, retrieve it out, is a new selector shaft. So it wasn't very expensive, it was only 60 quid, which at the end of the day is not too bad to get that working again. We'll give it a try anyway. When you look at the two side by side, quite bad. I've got new detent spring and ball bearings as well here. Whilst I'm this far stripped with it, I will change the spring and the ball bearing in first and reverse if I can get the selector fork out. But it was fun and games getting that one out, but that one, as you can see, is absolute toast. So I'll try and get some more videos of it going back together. But yeah, we'll go from there. The first and reverse detent spring on the left there, and the ball, and the new one on the right. So that one didn't seem too bad. That one, see inside there, slid the shaft back and just held a little magnet on a stick in place to hook that one out when it just came through. So I dare say we'll have fun and games putting that one back in, but shouldn't be too bad. We'll give it a whirl. Oh, a couple of things to try here. I've got a quarter drive deep 6mm socket, which I think I will be able to hold the little detent ball in and push it in whilst I slide the shaft in. So hopefully this will work. Put that spring in there first. This that way, that should give me a little bit of space for me to slide it in with. Oh, we're nearly there. If I get a little hammer just to knock that shaft, just to push him through. Move the selector fork along. There she goes. Line him up with that. Yeah, it's cooked in. Oh, perfect. That's in first, maybe? Might be in reverse. Yeah, that's got the new spring and the ball in. Oh, sorry it's out of focus. Keep looking at it, but it keeps changing out. I shall go and get the other shaft and selector fork, and we'll see how that goes. So what I've done here to help me fit this shaft, is I've now got to fit the detent spring and the ball upside down in the fork, is I've cut down a length off the old shaft that's all worn out, so I can push that in the fork, securing the spring and the ball into it, and then hopefully tap with a hammer, tap this one through, and it should just carry on pushing this one out. So that's the thought behind that. Anyway, let's put it into motion. That's my new detent spring and ball is pushed in now, with the bit of the old shaft going through, retaining the ball and the spring within the clutch fork there. The selector fork, sorry, not clutch fork. And we'll try and push it together. Now that big piece of shaft should be hopefully easy enough to retrieve from inside the box. So I had to be fairly quick with that because I didn't want anything stupid to happen. But that feels like, oops, there's a bit of gasket. Oh yeah, that's lovely and tight. Yeah, that's really good. So that has worked. There you go, she's back in neutral now. Cool. Now I can put the oh, that one just needs popping back into neutral as well. Oh, blimey, yeah, they are nice and crunching straight in. So I'll put there's a little tab that sits on the back of the gearbox here, which is why I've had to take all the drop box and all of that paraphernalia off. And this little tab is a lock tab. It sits with a tiny little bolt holding it on just to secure those two shafts in place. There's nothing particularly difficult on this gearbox to strip. It's been a little bit time consuming because I've had to take the engine and get the engine and gearbox off, effectively just raise it up and out of the dumper. But other than that, it's not been the worst job. There you go, so the little lock tab goes in. Yeah, all of that is hiding behind the drop box. Dagger that little bolt up. Try and show you. I've had to just, yeah, there's the little lock tab just here with the little bolt, and then the flat plate slides in between two grooves on each selector. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That's come together all right. I'm pleased. I'm really pleased with how that's gone. So upon taking the drop box apart, I have revealed some absolute horrors going on inside of here. And it's weird because it's only the centre gear. I think it's got metal fatigue and it's started falling apart. The dumper still drove absolutely fine. There was a fair bit of transmission noise, but these straight cut gears, you know, that's just what it is. But I can't find any manufacturer's ID numbers or part numbers on any of these gears, other than the fact it's a Newage 40M 4X gearbox and drop box. But we'll have to look into getting a new gear for that, because I'm not going to put that back together whilst we're at this stage with that knackered old gear on there. Just putting the last of the bolts in. I've put the top back on, the gearbox top with the gear stick, so that's all good. Put the front piece, or maybe the rear piece of the drop box back in there. Cleaned all that up and just put a bit of silicone sealer around it so that it goes on there and seals against the gearbox. I'm going to have to do my research as to where I can get a gear from. I'll have a look online when I'm in. I had a quick look on my phone, but the internet's not very good up here on the farm, so I'll have a look. There's a couple of custom gear places I might have to speak to. If I have to get a gear made up, then so be it. What it obviously wants doing, and it's going to, I think the metal in the gears had metal fatigue and it started just falling apart. That's what it looks like to me anyway, the fact it's crumbling away. There were a few bits of crumbly gear in the bottom there of the drop box. The top gear that comes off the gearbox drives the drop box has got a tooth chip there, and a couple of graze marks on the other teeth. It's not in brilliant condition. There's another chipped tooth there. I'll maybe speak to, if I can find a place that will have a look at doing a gear for me, I'll speak to them about this top one too. Typically the other two gears on the drop box seem in good nick, which is good. Yeah, so that's it. We'll lower the engine back onto the dumper's chassis there with the crane, and then I'll push it away just under the lean-to so I can get some more bits. But these things are set to try us, but at least I found out now, rather than too far down the line, say I'll be using it to bring me concrete in, and that drop box fails completely, I'd be stuffed. So I got sort of 8 to 10 tons of concrete to bring in and pour on a drive, on a garage base that I'm putting up. So yeah, we'll make it right. At least I'm not quite ready with my build to get the concrete ordered, but we're not far away. But at least I can, if I put the new gears, if I can get new gears in the drop box there, it'll make a nice job of it. We want to have the little dumper so it's usable. And it is 50 years old, so it's in 50 years of use and abuse, I would have thought, judging by how worn out that gear shaft selector was, the selector shaft. She's been thrown in and out of second and third on sites rather a lot, but just how it is, isn't it? So I've collected my new gears for the dumper transfer box from Apple Gears in Northampton. They've managed to manufacture me 2 new gears, the ones that were damaged. Just unboxing them now. Oh, that looks a million times better. Nice brand new gear there. Look at that, what a work of art. Wasn't cheap, mind, but I couldn't seem to source any parts for this thing anywhere. So that's my old one that had the chipped teeth. And they did say chances are it was the 2 broken teeth off that top gear that dropped down and caused all the damage on the other intermediate gear. Luckily the other gears were fine, so that was that. I'll open up this little fella and we'll have a look at putting him back together later. So this is the new drive gear from the gearbox to the transfer box, the drop box. Get him open. Oh, look at that. Work of art. So they weren't cheap, but getting the little dumper restored and making it reliable is the main thing here. And with those old gears that were completely toast, it wasn't going to be usable really. Whilst the drop box was apart, I've taken the chance to put it through the parts washer and paint it up. I didn't have any orange left that I painted the dumper, but I did have a whole 5 litres of orange enamel paint, so I don't know how old it was, but it was quite old. It sprayed up. So I've been and collected my new lower drop box bearing that supports the flange for the front drive shaft. The old one I managed to get out okay is all worn in the middle, and the ball bearings look quite rough and it doesn't rotate nicely, so there's a fair bit of movement in the front flange here, up and down. So I've got a new bearing to press into the casing here, and then the seal can go on, and then we can look at putting the gears together on the drop box and put it back together. He's all the way home. We can have a look at putting a bit of silicone on the seal there and bolting that down. Just using some RTV silicone just to go around that flange that bolts down with the seal in it. I've cleaned all this flange out and it does have a new O-ring in there, so that should hopefully be spot on for that. New oil seal, not an O-ring. tighten that down. Got my 7/16 socket. That's come down. I'll just grab a ratchet and just check that the little 3/8 gun does do stuff up pretty much perfectly, especially the smaller stuff. Yeah, that's ideal. Got a little bit of emery tape, just clean up the mating surface on it. So I'll put it together with a little bit of RTV silicone. Try and keep the oil in this drop box. Got a little bit of grease. I'm just putting a little bit of wheel bearing grease in between the rollers on the bearing here, just so it's going together with a film of grease on it. I'm going to trial fit my bottom gear, which the bearing supports that shaft which the drive shaft flange for the front axle goes on to. And just try that in the transfer case there and see what it's like. That drops in lovely. Oh, that's brilliant. That's lovely and tight holding that. Before on the other bearing, the bearing was all worn out and you could actually, the flange I say had a lot of movement. I don't know if the camera's picking that up, how the centre is worn there. So yeah, that should make a good difference with that part. I've been cleaning out the transfer case on the dumper, and I've just swilled it out with some brake cleaner, made it all, got rid of any crap that was in there. I'm just going to blow out the holes that the bolts go in, and then I'm going to try fitting up the gears onto it. I'll try and find somewhere to put the camera here. All of that lot blown out, I'll get some gears over and try fitting them up. It's brand new gear, the drive gear from the gearbox. A little film of grease on that oil seal. Oh, he's gone in nicely. Got a washer and a circlip to fit back on there. Oh, the little circlip snapped on nicely. And I've got this bronze bush to install. Now he should just tap onto there. I'll get a copper rawhide hammer and just knock him on. About where he sat when I took him off, so that's looking good. Right, on to the next gear. Oh, that's the second gear on. I'll go and grab the third one down. Nice shiny new gear going on. That's good, and just the bottom drive gear to go in, and we've nearly got full out. What's that gears? I'm just going to run a bead of silicone around the front cover here so it can seal up on the transfer box when I lift it in. I've got some grease on that lower bearing there that's going to slide through. So hopefully this will all just go together now and drop into place. It's quite heavy, this drop box front cover, being a cast piece. You want it to be fairly heavy duty anyway. these bottom bolts in. My front casing is now all installed and the front flange is on. I've bent the lock tab over. I'm now on the stage where I'm going to put some gearbox oil in there. I've got some 80/90 I'm going to use, and then lurking around I've got some of this as well. I'm going to put a little bit of that in with it, as it's a blend supplement for manual transmissions and axles and things, so a bit of that won't do any harm, hopefully help it stay good. I'm using a little syringe here to fill up the drop box. Mixed a bit of gear supplement into there. Just turned it over just to spread a bit of oil across the gears there and the bearings. I did put oil all onto all the bearings and things as it went together, so certainly didn't go together dry. Yeah, it's right up on the mark, up to the top of the filler now. Pop the filler back in. Yeah, he's right up to the threads. I will paint the rest of the drop box at some point. Good, that's it, full of oil. I've dropped the gearbox oil out, which was a bit horrible. I'm also filling this up with some 80/90. I'll put a bit of that gear supplement thing in there as well. Yeah, my little syringe only holds 200 ml at a time, so it takes a few goes to fill it up. Let's dip that and see what that's got in it. Yep, he's reading on the stick now. I'll just put that last little bit in there. Yeah, it's just up to the mark now, so that's perfect. Good, you can go back in. Try and slide the engine back in on its mounts. Hopefully it'll work. PH2 weighs an absolute ton on its own. So these ones push up from underneath. I'm hooking up the rear prop now. I've got the engine and the gearbox all bolted in on its mounts. It's got 6 big bolts that hold it in, 4 on the engine side and 2 on the transfer case, the drop box. I've still got the frame to paint up that goes around the drop box. It's like a protection cradle there. That all bolts on. I've taken it off. I've sandblasted it in my box and primed it at the moment, so I've just got to paint that orange as well. That's a socket I got for doing Land Rover prop shaft bolts on. It's 9/16, but it does them all well. It's a nice thin one that allows you to get in between the UJ with it. Daddy those up with the gun, and then I'll put a spanner on them and check they're tight. Copy those forks out nice and tight.
Attach my cradle back on that protects the drop box from hitting the ground first if it does ever get to the point where clearance becomes an issue. So the cradle, I've sandblasted that, painted it, and it's gone back on with some new nuts and bolts. I'm going to put the front prop on now, and that's the last piece then to bolt back on. I'm hoping that's somewhere near. Yep, first bolt's pushed through. I might have the prop. Yeah, I want to turn it. I have to turn the flange. There you go, the hole should be lined up now. That's it. Sweet, that's going back together. Got the front prop shaft all bolted up now, just put spanners on all of them and check they're all tight, so that's good. This is how she's looking. So both props are on, this cradle's back on, looking alright. At this point it's all back together and all bolted up, but I haven't had time to run it up and test it down the yard or test it on the farm yet. That's hopefully going to be my next video.